the Muslims got close to the water springs, and they wanted to set up their camp there so that they don't allow the mushrikeen to get enough or to get access to water springs. That was a military kind of strategy. So the Prophet ﷺ and his army, the army of the Muslims, they reached the wells of the springs of Badr. So they found two people who were trying to get water in huge containers, leather bags that were designed for water, and they were filling them with water. So they got hold of them, and they turned out to be slaves. One of them ran away, and they still kept one of them. The Prophet ﷺ was praying at that moment. The companions got hold of that slave, and they said to him, "What do you know about Abu Sufyan's caravan?" He said, "I don't know anything about him. I don't know about anything about Abu Sufyan or his caravan. The only thing I know is that the people of Mecca have come with a huge army to fight you. This is all what I know." So they would beat him, and they thought that he was hiding some information from them. They said, "What do you know about Abu Sufyan? Tell us about Abu Sufyan." And he said, "I don't know anything about Abu Sufyan." When they beat him really hard, he said, "Okay, I will tell you." They would leave him. They would say, "Okay, what do you have about Abu Sufyan?" He would say, "Honestly, I know nothing about Abu Sufyan or his caravan. The only thing I know is that I am just bringing water for the huge army, the massive army, the great army of Quraysh, and this is all what I know. I have no information about Abu Sufyan or his caravan." They would beat him again. The Prophet ﷺ was praying, and he noticed all of that. When he finished, the Messenger ﷺ turned to his companions, teaching them a very important lesson that we need to learn today. He said to them, "You asked him and he gave you the answer. Then you beat him, and you want him to tell you something other than what he knows? He told you the truth. You're not happy with the truth, and you beat him. You want him to tell you something you wish to hear? He told you he doesn't know anything about Abu Sufyan." And this kind of lesson, we really need it today, because many people, I can say the majority of the Muslims today, we always function, or we make our decisions and we take our stances based on emotion, only emotion, without reasonable thinking. So we look at the events and the things that are happening around us, and most people take a stance based on emotion. Then they start to search for events and for proofs to substantiate their stance. Now that's not the correct way of making a decision or taking a stance. We have to study the situation, and the scientific way of making decisions is to collect information. We have to collect information without bias. We have to be neutral. We have to collect all the information that we need to make a decision, in order to make a decision. Then we sift this information, we study it, we analyze it. Then we see what is the conclusion that we can make out of this information, out of this data. This is the scientific way. And then, after studying all the issue from all angles, from all directions, then we can make a correct decision based on knowledge, based on information. Now, what happens with the Muslims today? We know that there's an open enemy to Islam who are waging a war against the Muslims wherever they are, under the name, most probably and most commonly under the name of fighting terrorism. Yes, there is terrorism among Muslims and among non-Muslims, but this is used mainly as a cover-up in order to fight Islam. There are extremists amongst the Muslims, and we have to treat this issue in the Islamic way. And there is extremism among non-Muslims as well. So we have to treat this in an Islamic way as well. But most of what is said today to be a war against terrorism is exploited to fight Islam itself, and to label certain people, certain denominations among Muslims, that they are terrorists, so we can water down, or the enemies of Islam can water down the methodology of Islam, the true methodology and the true commitment to Islam. Now, what the Muslims do, the majority of the Muslims, they take, as I said, this is the strategy of the open enemies of Islam. But there is an enemy from inside that claims to be Muslim, claims to be one of the huge denominations among the Muslims, and those people Their history is known right from the time of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, because they emerged at that time, and they considered the companions of the Prophet ﷺ to be apostates, to be non-Muslims. They have turned on their heels and they have become non-Muslims, except for 3, and maximum they get the ones who remained upon Islam among the companions to be only 7. Whereas they said the rest of the companions, they disbelieved. They said that the rest of the companions disbelieved. Now that's a very serious issue. And the one who founded this kind of understanding, this kind of methodology, this kind of denomination was a Jew who pretended to be a Muslim. So he was a hypocrite, Abdullah ibn Saba. Now today the Muslims, when they look at the balance of power, they see some kind of verbal war between the countries that present this denomination and the enemies of Islam. And those who claim to be Muslims, they say, we will wipe them off the map. We will destroy them. We will, end their existence. This is what they say. That's a verbal, that's something only for the consumption of the masses, just to play with the emotions of the Muslims, the common Muslims. But in reality, there are secret agreements and secret meetings between those and the enemies of Islam. And if we study their history, we will find that they cooperated throughout the history of Islam with the Mughals, and they cooperated with the Crusaders. They cooperated with the Portuguese against the Ottoman Empire. You know, when the Ottoman Empire was spreading Islam in Europe, when they almost reached Vienna, the capital of Austria now, they were spreading and the people of Europe were entering into Islam. Do you know what stopped them? Those people. Those people started attacking Baghdad and Damascus, attacking the weak Muslims, raping the women of the Muslims, and they were creating disorder in the Muslim lands. So the Muslims, the Ottomans who were spreading Islam in Europe, they had to come back. They had to retreat, and the Islamic expansion in Europe stopped. Why? In order just to defend Islam from those who were biting Islam, who were biting and stabbing the Muslims from the back. This is something we have to understand. But many Muslims today, because they have, we have been subjected to so many defeats, and we have the lower hand today. Some people just want to hang to any kind of hope, even if it's a lie. So they say, these are the heroes of Islam, and they have fake wars with the enemies of Islam. And well, maybe a few soldiers are killed and murdered here and there, but that means nothing. The reality, these are games they're playing just to manipulate the masses among the Muslims. This is why we have to consider all the facts and all the history of those people and their beliefs. We have to study their books and see what they say about us. They say that those people upon the Sunnah, they are worse than the Jews and the Christians, and they are filthy, and they are to be killed, and they are the children of zina, and they say they will dwell in the hellfire forever. So what kind of Islam these people are going to defend? Do you think they are going to defend? You know, if they take hold of the Muslim lands that are upon the Sunnah, they will kill the Muslims as they do in the countries where they have taken hold of. And don't attach your heart to the news agencies, even the ones who claim to be Muslims and defend the rights of Islam, because all those news agencies, they have their own agenda and they have their own interests and they have their own relations, so they are not neutral. Be careful, search for the truth, and make your decision based on real study, and put your trust in Allah. Don't suffice yourself with sitting at home watching news thinking, oh, you're doing something for Islam. You're doing nothing for Islam. You do something for Islam when you start working and when you do some serious work. And most people who spend their time on TV watching news analysis, and they think that they are doing something for Islam, and they support the enemies of Islam, the real enemies of Islam, they start to give fatwas about matters related to their religion. And when you tell them about a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, about something they have to do with regards to their religion, they say this is something insignificant. We're dealing with the high issues. These people are the fools. They have been fooled by the enemies of Islam. And the enemies of Islam actually play with them like puppets. They brainwash them, but they don't realize. They think they're doing something good. Now this is something serious we have to look into. Hopefully, inshallah, in future opportunities, we will talk more about this issue because it's a very serious issue. We have to rise up. We have to rise the level of our awareness to the challenges we're dealing with today. We'll carry on with the events of preceding the Battle of Badr just after the short break, so stay with us.
It is just Allah's way to make our spirits strong. Brothers and sisters, to increase your iman.
خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا. Learning how to recite the Quran properly, learning the meaning of what we recite, including the ahkam from the verses which we recite, trying to implement what we learn in our daily life. We'll listen to the participants and the guests. We'll take your phone calls. We're going to recite live. We'll listen to your recitation and we'll correct it according to the rules and regulations which we'll state in each episode. Now your dream will come true.